Welcome back to the Retro Sports Gamer channel, and tonight we have a Retro Sports gaming special for you. We're here with the Tecmo Jam Cleveland organizer, Tom Jenkins.
Hey everyone.
And we also have with us tonight the #1 contender for the tournament, the guy who won the Friday Night Retro NBA Jam T tournament on the Genesis a while back in April, Green Majik. What's up, Joseph?
What's up, guys? Good to see you, everyone. Glad to be here.
Good to see you. Looks like you got quite the scene behind you tonight.
Yeah, we got some downtown action going on. Yeah, some cars going by. This is the city. That's how we live in the city.
All right, so I'm going to start asking Tom some questions about Tecmo Jam Cleveland. So, Tom, it's my understanding that you started up your Tecmo Cleveland tournament last year to the public, but you've been doing this a long time, haven't you?
Yep. Yeah, so last year was the first time we did it out in the public. But we've been doing this. This is really the 9th year we've been doing it as guys. Actually got the trophy across the room here that we've been doing. We used to call our league we used to call us the Tecmo Super Bros. So we've been doing the Tecmo Super Bros probably for 9 years. Then last year it turned into Tecmo Cleveland. We decided, like, hey, we've been in my basement for so long. We were in my living room upstairs for a while. We broke a kitchen chair one year. So we got moved down here. We said, why don't we just move this thing to the main stage? So that's what we did last year. We're back again to do it this year.
Right.
So how many guys did you have playing in your basement tournaments?
I think the last one we had, which would have been 2 years ago now, was the last basement tournament. We had, I think it was close to 30, maybe over 30 even. It was just insane down here. I mean, I was running all CRTs along the walls here. I had a projector on the wall over there. I've got a TV hanging on the wall over there. It was just insane. We had another projector. I had stats and challenge on the wall with brackets up, and it was kind of like, why am I doing this like in my house? And it was crazy. And you leave the next day. It's awesome, right? It's awesome. You leave the next day and it's like boxes of pizza, Natty Light, and everything all over your house. And we always talked about it for years. Seriously, I mean, like, I've been into retro gaming forever. I mean, I collect NES games. My license plate's Nintendo. I play Popeye religiously. So this is just kind of in my DNA, and we talked about it. A good tight group of my friends. We decided, like, hey, let's try to take this thing public and see what happens here.
Yeah, I might have to ask you about that Popeye machine, because that's not usually one of the more popular Nintendo games. But
yeah, we'll do a. It's not a sports game per se, but yeah, I'm going for the world record on Popeye. I think I'm either number 6. Well, it may have changed recently. Maybe 6 or 7 worldwide right now in Twin Galaxies. So that's been climbing the leaderboards for Popeye. So I'm up there.
Yeah, it's a good-looking cabinet back there.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good.
So was there like a specific moment or day where you were like, we have to bring this to the public? Or was it just like, what?
I think it's just something we've talked about, honestly. It was
Yeah.
like something, my one good friend Roger, for years, we've talked about it. We're like, we just have to take this thing, and I'm sure people would latch onto it and open it up to the public. And that's why even this year, too, we added a second day for NBA Jam. Because it's the same thing. Like, we go to retro cons. There's one here in Cleveland called CCAG, Cleveland Classic Arcade Gaming Expo. We go to that every year, and they do, I would call them like micro tournaments, right? So they did NBA Jam tournaments for years. They did Tetris Attack tournaments. It's always, I think they've got a Windjammers tournament this year. So it's just things like that. It's like, okay, we're already doing this with Tecmo. Okay, we already have a good following with NBA Jam, and I'm sure more people would even latch onto that as well if we could do this. So, yeah.
Yeah. So usually when a tournament goes public for the first time, it doesn't grow to over 60 players. So how were you able to accomplish that in the first one?
What did someone once told me? Mark Nutter, he's one of my friends here in the Cleveland area. He told me, he's like, you're like the Don King of Tecmo. And because he's like, you're like promoting the hell out of this thing. And honestly, I do it because I love it. My wife, I'll be at the kitchen table working on videos or swag or merchandise or promos or whatever. She's like, you're obsessed. And I told her I'm not obsessed, but I like to get things done right and do them well. So last year, I don't think I ever answered the original question, we had 63 guys actually show up. We had 64 right on the nose register, but we had 63 guys actually show up for the tournament, just for the Tecmo tournament on that Saturday last year. So honestly, I feel like we've grown it just because I'm just promoting it like crazy, like building sponsorships and partnerships with all these places all over Cleveland who have been awesome too.
Yeah, there's some cities where I think there's not as much going on. Maybe Cleveland's one of those cities. I visited.
What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say?
I'm not trying to pull a Joakim Noah or anything.
Yeah,
but I visited Cleveland, and
that was LeBron and him had the beef, more or less.
Yeah,
I didn't go to Chicago.
It's a nice little town, but it doesn't seem like it has as much competition with things like this going on. I don't know how many beercades you have there, if you have any. But
yeah, there's a lot of that stuff.
Oh, is there?
Like the retro scene in Cleveland.
Hey, Joseph, can you mute your video? We hear sirens in the background.
If you can, hey Joseph, can you mute that? Can you hit mute on your phone or no? Maybe. I don't know if you can hear us or not.
Joseph.
Sorry, there's an ambulance in the background.
Yeah, can you try to mute it while I'm talking to Tom? If you see it on the screen there.
Do what?
Can you mute it? Your mic for now?
Oh yeah, for sure. When you're talking to Tom, yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it.
No problem. Thanks.
All right. Yeah. No, we've got a ton of beercades, arcades. There's 16-bit bar, and they're down in Columbus. Honestly, too, I think with Cleveland being a sports town, that's what also makes it attractive too. I mean, the Browns, for better or worse, have kind of left us wanting the Super Bowl here in Cleveland. So it's like, okay, we'll give it our best shot.
Yeah, for sure. So this year, well, let me talk about last year a little bit. I heard you had arcade cabinets as part of your tournament. So you had a company bring those in just to enhance the experience. Is that how it went?
Yeah, I mean, so I know a guy. He actually helped me get this Popeye machine at like 3 a.m. We made a 4-hour road trip out to Michigan. But John Salter, he owns an arcade here in North Ridgeville. I've been good friends with him for years. So it's one of those things that he's willing to bring some cabinets to the arcade, albeit that I have to help him move them, unload them, load them up again, bring them back. And if you've ever moved cabinets, I know you've got that Blitz machine in your basement. It's not fun, or wherever you got that machine.
Yeah, they're like 500 pounds. It's like moving a fridge.
Yeah. Once you have experience moving cabs, like one time I moved a couple racer cabinets out of a basement here. I'll never do that again. Like, I will never own a racer cabinet just because of that experience. But no, I've got a buddy who owns an arcade. So yeah, we bring in cabinets. There's also a company down in Akron, which is like 50 minutes south of here. Tipsy Raccoons. They have like this drinking arcade cabinet. There's no other really way to explain it, but you basically put you can put Pepsi or whatever or beer in there, and it actually has weights, so it'll know when it's time your turn to drink or whatnot. And they bring an arcade game that's called Tipsy Raccoons. It's pretty sweet too. So.
Okay, so it's not like Tapper where they got the two places for a beer.
No, it's got literally I think it's got either 4 or 6 cup holders in the base of it. It's pretty sweet. It had a line up to it last year, and you basically put your beers in it. It has little micro games you do, and then the losers, it'll say losers drink. It'll tell you on the screen. It actually know when you pick your cup out of the cup holder too. And this year too, we're also doing some. I mean, like I was saying at the beginning, I collect so much retro stuff. I'm borderline hoarder, so I've got tons of extra consoles, carts, everything. So we're kind of even setting up this year. We're gonna have a space dedicated just for retro consoles. So if people get knocked out or they're in between games, you want to play Super NES, you want to play Genesis, you want to play NES, you want to play N64. We're gonna have different games that just aren't Tecmo, that just aren't NBA Jam, that people can play. Because there are people that show up too, like wives that show up, kids that show up, and if people get bumped out, you're paying that fee to get in. You want to have something else to do, as well.
So on the tournaments that you used to run before you went public, did you win any of those tournaments? And how good are you at Tecmo Super Bowl?
Well, I quickly learned I wasn't as good as I thought as I was in Tecmo until I joined into the Tecmo circle here with a couple other guys that are probably up there with the elites. So, yeah, I won our home tournament probably, 3 or 4 times. One year was an upset. I remember it was Bills Giants. My friend Big Mike, I think he had the Giants that year. That might have been 3 or 4 years ago, but he took me down. So on the trophy, we actually have, I can grab it here in a second, but you actually put your names. It's kind of built like the Stanley Cup around the bottom of it, so it's got the winners on it. It's a pretty sweet trophy. But yeah, when I joined started advertising the Tecmo events, really for Tecmo Cleveland last year, a lot of guys came out that have been on the forums on TecmoBowl.org and kicked my ass, I'll just say. They definitely gave me a whooping. So, but honestly, my game has improved so much since then. Just because a lot of the guys too, I mean, you guys know, I mean, they're willing to share knowledge, they're willing to share teams, playbooks, matchups, just willing to talk things through with you, which gets you better at your game overall. So,
right, for sure.
Yeah.
So this year, what I love about your tournament is you've decided that we need to dedicate a full day to just NBA Jam. So you chose NBA Jam to be the one game to dedicate a full game to. So what was the reasoning behind that decision?
Well, really, it was that I want to make it as big as the Tecmo tournament, truthfully. Like, I want the Tecmo tournament to be its own thing, and I want the NBA Jam tournament to be its own thing, right? So I think if you're going to run these things, I mean, the guys that run these big tournaments, dude, it's hard. I mean, you're talking last year having 63, 64 some guys, right? Running these tournaments, running the group play, running brackets. People are drinking, having a good time, keeping their horns. I love it. This is like Barstool Sports.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's just like you're running these massive brackets, and I was looking at myself. I'm like, there's just no way I could imagine doing a Tecmo bracket and gameplay, and then Jam at the same time, because then people are going to be waiting on each other. It's just gonna, it's just going to take all day. It already takes an entire day to really run this Tecmo Super Bowl tournament, really starting from like 10 or 11. I think we wrap up around like 4 or 5 o'clock. But we'll see if it goes later this year if we have more guys. But it'd just be impossible, in my opinion, to try and do it right.
So you're using NBA Jam TE on the Genesis. Why did you choose that specific version?
Yeah, actually, too, taking a step back, I originally started with NBA Jam. Started with NBA Jam, and I think talking to my friends and research I did and just seeing what was out there, too. I mean, NBA Jam, you guys know, it's just got so much elastic effect. It really just comes, not that TE doesn't either, but it just comes down to that last really 30 to 45 seconds anyways. So we pivoted to TE. So if anyone wants to buy a bunch of NBA Jam cards, I got those for sale.
Hey, I might be your guy. I like the first version. Yeah.
I like the first version a lot. So I'd won a couple NBA Jam regular tournaments at the CCAG here in Cleveland. So I kind of got a big head. I'm like, okay, I'm pretty good at this. Let's do this tournament. Let's see what happens. And then I saw really with the attributes in TE, that's what made me flip in terms of making that decision to say, okay, it's got a more variable into it. You've got bigger roster, right? You've got the attributes. You've got the at the half, the players start to take damage from pushing, or what do they call it? I forget.
Injuries.
Their injury. Thank you. Injury that they take. I think that's a game changer. So you talking about strategy in a game, just like Tecmo, that totally I feel like changes the game. And nothing wrong with NBA Jam. I'm a purist. I still like NBA Jam, but the TE just adds a whole new level. And your last question, why in the Genesis? I don't know. I just like the sound on the Genesis better. I just like the 3-button feel. Some people either hate the 3 buttons, or they say like, why are you using 3? I want to use the 6. I just like the 3 buttons, and I honestly like the sound better. That kind of gritty sound better on a Genesis.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you compare it to the Super Nintendo version. It's got the in-game music. It does have that gritty sound. I think the thing with NBA Jam TE is there's just so many options with that one, because you have it on like Sony PlayStation, Sega Saturn, Atari Jaguar. So you do have those other options, and some people like those better. So that's always the big thing with NBA Jam TE. It's like, which game is the most superior game out of all the versions.
And then also, too, just from a cost standpoint for me, just stockpiling up a bunch of Super NESs, they just have a higher price point.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, dude, they're crazy. I mean, you can get a Genesis for like $30-$40 on eBay, but SNESs, I mean, $60 entry level, and even the repros aren't very good in my opinion.
So where is the tournament at this year?
Yeah, so we are back at it's at an American Legion Hall. So thanks to our men and women in service, but it's in Avon Lake, Ohio, which is about 20 minutes west of Cleveland. So it's in Avon Lake. We did it at the Legion Hall last year, and a lot of people too kind of go like, "Oh, okay, it's at a Legion Hall." It's actually a super nice Legion Hall. I mean, really, really nice. And the guy there has his own catering business, does a great job. There's cheap beers, and it's a cool spot.
There's a question from the chat, Kevin Cabarello. If he makes your tournament, he'll probably be one of the top contenders. But he says, will there be NBA Jam TE available to play at the tournament on other systems on the side, like Super Nintendo, Jaguar?
I have one NBA Jam TE cart for the SNES. So I've got one, Kevin. If you want it, you can do some warm-ups on that. But the tournament's going to be run on the Genesis.
So where's your stream going to be covered?
So TGFN, True Game Fan Network, they're going to be streaming it. So yeah, Troy is going to be coming out from them for the Tecmo tournament on Saturday. I don't think he's sticking around for the NBA Jam tournament. So if you know anyone who wants to stream the Jam tournament besides me, I was either going to stream it on Twitch or on Facebook. So we don't have official broadcasting or anything set up for NBA Jam, but for Tecmo, TGFN's coming out.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so where can people sign up for the tournament if they haven't already? And where's the best place to follow the tournament?
Yes, I mean, you can head over to TecmoJamCleveland.com. So it's Tecmo Jam, like NBA Jam, Cleveland.com. And then you just go right on there, register. You can do a couple options too. Like we have it so people can either just do Tecmo, just do NBA Jam, or you can do both. So if you do both tournaments, we give you a pretty sweet deal and a discount. Also with the registration right now, you get a t-shirt included. So this week, since the 4th of July, we've been running a sale up to 20% off tickets. So you can get into both tournaments, NBA Jam, Tecmo, t-shirt, everything for $45 right now. So if you want to just do one tournament right now, it's $32, and that includes t-shirts. You can just pick Tecmo, you can just pick Jam. But really, just head over to TecmoJamCleveland.com for all the fun social stuff. We're just at Tecmo Cleveland everywhere on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I love the design of those Tecmo Jam shirts. You know, that was something that I never thought I'd see on the same shirt or design. Do you have any of those yet?
I am getting them next week.
Okay.
So I will be getting them on Friday. I'm going down to Columbus to another 16-bit bar down in Kevin's neighborhood. We're doing an NBA Jam TE tournament at a 16-bit bar. But yeah, the guy that does them is actually from Columbus. Columbus, Ohio is like 2.5 hours south of here. And it was funny because we were designing the t-shirts, Robert from 8-Bit Apparel. And we just had, last year, I don't have a shirt on right now. We had the Tecmo Stack guy standing up. I was like, we have to do something that incorporates both. And him and I were texting back and forth, going back and forth on this thing. And he came with a sweet idea. I guess it's all everything's backwards, but taking the NBA Jam font in this and then putting Tecmo in it, which was awesome. So it kind of incorporated everything. And it's pretty sweet. It's got the Cleveland skyline in it and all that stuff. I think it's pretty cool.
All right, so is there anything else we should know about your tournament before we move on to some NBA Jam topics?
No, I mean, honestly, we just want to make this thing huge. So if you guys know people or talk to people, get your friends here. I mean, honestly, people always say, like, why am I doing this? My wife asks me that all the time. I just want to put on a good show. I just want to have fun. And that's what this is all about. That's why it's even, too, I'm like trying to get people more value for their dollars. Because I know it's not easy to come out to Cleveland if you're traveling. So I was saying we got arcades. We've got so many sponsors this year just giving away stuff. It's fantastic. So even beyond just getting a free t-shirt, a chance to play Tecmo or NBA Jam, just come out, have fun, spend the weekend here or a day here, and just have a blast. We want to make this thing huge. So I appreciate the time. It's been cool, and we can talk about some strategy now.
Yeah, for sure. So it's TecmoJamCleveland.com to sign up, or TecmoCleveland.com.
Right.
And the Twitch for the Tecmo tournament is going to be on TGFN Retro. So let's move on and talk to Green Majik a little bit. Joseph, we brought you on tonight you're probably the #1 contender going into this NBA Jam tournament. Not to put any pressure on you or anything, but I see the sign back there from Tom says this is the world's largest NBA Jam tournament, and you're going in fresh off a victory at Friday Night Retro, the tournament before Tecmo Madison. It was a 1-versus-1 tournament, and you won that tournament. So speak a little bit about that.
What's up? Turn on the volume now.
Okay.
So what was that question? Sorry.
So yeah, speak about your performance at Friday Night Retro Tecmo or the NBA Jam TE tournament.
Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. Wrote some notes to try to keep that info fresh, but I want to say there was like 24 or so people there, and you know, it was group play, and then we went into bracket after that, and so yeah, group play. We had about 4 people in a group, and so I think the teams that I picked were the Nets, the Bullets, the Warriors, and the Sonics. Kind of my mindset was, you know, pick good teams for group play, but kind of save the big names for the bracket play. And so yeah, I was able to win all of those and kind of get a sense of like where people were with their familiarity with the game. A lot of people were kind of like hadn't picked it up in a while, but really enjoyed the game. So it's fun to get those wins. And then I believe 3 players got a bye for the first round, and it was me and either Ryan or Kevin and Josh Holtzbarrow. So I was like, oh, that's cool, got a bye, like that feels good. And at that point I knew I needed about 4 more teams in my pocket to you know, make it to the end. So I ended up going ended up busting out the Majik first, of course. Like Kevin noted, I got the shirt on. Love me some Majik. Was able to win a match against the Knicks. Took a picture, so I had a couple like notes here. Won 51-32, and what stuck out though was that I won the injury game 5-33. So kind of when I came to bracket play, I really like picked up my you know, now it's time to push them around a little bit. So the next game was the intense one against DT. He picked the Knicks again, so I went against him twice in a row. But I was the Hornets, you know, one of those heavy teams that can pretty much play against anyone. And that was just a back and forth battle. Pretty much I would go down and score. He would go down and score. I wrote down some defensive statistics I had. It was just like a defensive battle. And the injury battle in that game was I injured him 19 times and he injured me 18. So we were just beating each other up. It was a lot of fun. And won that one by 1. And I was like, all right, this is what it feels like to play another really, really good player. And I think about that time, Kevin had been eliminated too. And I was like, all right, so this is getting weird. You know, we got Kevin's out of it, and here we are. It's the Final Four. I played a guy who was pretty good, but he took the Bulls, and I had the Spurs. So you get some of that unfamiliarity there. People picking teams that they might like, but in the Final Four, the Bulls probably not going to cut it. Definitely a mismatch, and pretty much just gave it to Rodman every play, and he scored like 45 points. Injury battle, I dished out 33 and he got me 15 times. So you know, Bulls not much power there, so they're going to get pushed around by a better team like that. So that one brought me to the championship, and of course Ryan and I both had the Rockets in our pocket. So that was kind of fun when he showed his card that he was the Rockets. I'm like, all right, this is going to be a good game. This is going to be a good one. We both got the Rockets. So I think the difference in that game was I got an early fire, and just was able to build a lead early and then kind of sustain that. And then again, the injury battle, I got him 24 times and he got me 14. So that was kind of one of the things I learned from the tournament, was just like, you know, how important it is to get that injury game going in TE. You know, you gotta tire them down and hang in there and be a little faster at the end and maybe have a little better shooting. So it was a lot of fun.
How many guys do you actually get on fire as you get further in the brackets like that? Like I just heard you say you got on fire. Like does that happen a lot?
Not a whole lot. It didn't. I mean, like maybe in casual, like in the group play, it would happen more often. But you know, one thing that I think keeps it not happening very much in the Genesis is when you goaltend, it counts as a score, and so they can kind of sustain that. And so where people might be thinking, oh, they can goaltend like in the Super Nintendo and to stop them. Yeah. But that's not going to fly. Yeah, so maybe that happens a couple times.
Difference, right? That's the biggest difference. It's the killer.
Yeah.
So what was that you said about the goaltending that you can do in Super Nintendo, but you can't do in Genesis?
Yeah, in Super Nintendo, you can, if you score 2 buckets and the computer or whoever you're up against is going to score, you just goaltend and your chain is, still going.
You can maintain the fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't get rid of it. And Jam, it puts it out if you do that, even if you're on fire.
Yeah. So, and then another thing that would be different is the last second goaltending, which I found out in the Genesis, last 5 seconds of every quarter, you can just jump up and goaltend, and they don't count it.
Oh, really?
Super Nintendo, I'm pretty sure they call goaltending if you catch it like that at the end. So there's a couple of differences.
As far as that goes, I think the Super Nintendo is truer to the arcade because those little nuances in the Genesis version, I don't remember those ever happening on Super Nintendo or on the arcade. I could be wrong, but those are like Genesis specific things, and those are good things to know going into this tournament, especially you could goaltend with no penalty in the last 5 seconds of every quarter. That's huge to know.
So basically, you want to score with no time on the clock, or you want to shoot it with more than 5 seconds on the clock so that they can't get that free goaltend. So yeah, definitely a strategic point right there.
Yeah. Well, Joseph, congratulations on that victory at Friday Night Retro.
Thanks. A lot of fun.
That pins yourself as the #1 contender for the Tecmo Jam Cleveland. So good luck there.
I think
you said you picked me or who picked me?
He's holding back strategy. I can tell though. I think he's holding back.
No, I don't think so. We're going to talk a little bit more about strategy
I'm listening. I'm ready.
I want to know.
I'm willing to give 80% of my strategy.
80%. All right. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Just leave the 20% out there. Yeah.
20%.
Hold
and
that
I do promise 0 misinformation.
Okay. All right.
Tom, who do you think the best player in the game is?
Well,
single player, because you told me that there's no tag mode in this. So
so the tag mode, put tag mode on.
It's on now?
Yeah, we're with tag mode on. Tag mode on. It just makes sense to do. So, I mean, sorry, I meant to talk to you about it, but yeah, definitely put tag mode on. It just makes sense overall, I feel like, because otherwise you're just limiting players. Honestly, Elijah is pretty solid. I like that call. I mean, Houston's just a solid pick, obviously overall. But I always, what I always hated about TE a little bit more than regular Jam 2, I think the threes are a little bit, I don't know, more inconsistent. If inconsistent's the word or not, but I feel like you've got pros like Mark Price. I've always used Mark Price a ton, but in Tournament Edition, he's terrible. I feel like the Cavs are just not a overall solid pick either, too. But the threes just don't go. But I don't know. I'm also, I'd probably say my top picks in terms of teams are obviously I love Charlotte. Trying to think, Houston. I do always still stick with Cleveland, even though I know they're not a top tier team by any means. But that's pretty much who I play a lot with. Charlotte is obviously a big one too. And Charlotte I play a ton with.
So you say Elijah's the best?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, he's a personal favorite of mine, I think.
Okay.
But is Mutombo, is he in TE? I haven't played enough to even know if he's in TE or not. He's
on the Nuggets.
He's there.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of those two. I mean, he's just a monster. So,
And Kevin in the chat saying 3-pointers in Genesis are much more stingy than the other versions.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just crazy. I mean, you play in other versions, it just even, again, I'm comparing Jam to TE, but I mean, like the threes are just, it's just totally different. I don't know, I haven't seen it, so Kevin might be right, but I don't know if it's between SNES and Genesis or not. But I just know like Mark Price used to just drain those, and I was a Cleveland, obviously, fan and just always relied on Mark Price, and I can't, and he's terrible. I feel like.
Joseph, who do you think the best player in the game is?
So yeah, I think there are a lot of great players, and like the top three, I've been crunching my numbers, and I've been like trying to get down to the nitty gritty. We don't got Brewdog to help us out, so we're going out on a limb here. But according to my unofficial method, the three best players, Larry Johnson, Dennis Rodman, and Alonzo Mourning. They just have the most stats that matter. And so, there are a lot of other guys right under them, like Sean Kemp, Derek Holman, Patrick Ewing, Robert Ory, Nick Anderson. Those guys are great too. But if you got to pick one, it's between Johnson, Rodman, and Mourning, which obviously speaks to why the Hornets are one of the best teams. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely, you gave me quite a few there. So I would say Dennis Rodman and Chris Webber are my two personal favorites to use. Webber is just fast. He could dunk, play some defense. Rodman's just, his stealing's up. He's powerful. He's fast. He could dunk. He's just a beast on defense.
Yep.
David Robinson's also a great partner for him. I would say one of the best balanced guys, and you mentioned him, Joseph, is Robert Ory on the Rockets. He doesn't have any rating under a 6, and his high is an 8. So he's really probably the best balanced player in the game. So you could make a case for that he's one of the best. But yeah, there's certain attributes that matter more, and those are the guys you're going to want to go with for sure. So I'm going to start with Joseph on this one. And you don't have to give away your whole strategy, but what's the best offensive strategy in the Genesis version? Is it to just pull up and shoot threes, go for dunks, push the off-ball guy to get injuries up like you did me at the satellite tournament?
Yeah, I got a few pointers for offense and defense, and just how to take your pushing game to the next level. But basically for offense, if you got a guy who can dunk, turn this down for a second. If you got a guy who can dunk, say he's like a 7 out of 10, that guy's a threat to throw it down. That's an easy score right there. It's kind of the metric that I think about. 7 on dunk, like Tom Gugliotta and all those guys. They're not the upper crust that we've mentioned with the best players, but 7 on a dunk, you're probably going to land it, even if someone 9 on block trying to get you. So on offense, just be mindful. If you got a dunker, he's probably got a good chance of scoring. So that's the first thing. Second thing, like we mentioned, the 3 balls are a little challenging, so use them sparingly. And but when you do, keep in mind sort of the hot spots. I think of like the top and bottom elbow of the 3-point arc as a hot spot. Also, the very the very top of the arc is kind of a hot spot.
I think they're playing NBA Jam over there, aren't they? I said they're playing some Jam. It sounds like a game going on over there.
It's Sunday night in Chicago. It's getting exciting, even though we're just at Starbucks here. But and then you want to be open when you're doing a 3 versus not. Like, I think it's much more significant if you're open shooting a 3 than if you're a 9 on 3 versus like a 6. So you want to be open if possible, and then you want to time it so that you're releasing that ball at the top of your, just like most basketball video games. You just want to have a nice release on that. So when you do use a 3 ball, and you want to throw up a couple because, if you're going down and scoring, they're going down and scoring, you got to have something to mix up the variables. So use the 3s sparingly, and when you do, just make sure it's a good 3, and then roll the dice. And then my third tip for offense would be try to get comfortable scoring with anyone. Say you might have a team that has 1 scorer, and it's like, well, that's great, but maybe Sean Kemp gets dinged up a little bit. So you got to be comfortable going into with Gary Payton and Detlef Schrempf, and getting those buckets. You got to use your whole team basically. So easier said than done maybe, but that's a good mindset to have. Don't be like, I'm going to be the Sonics and just destroy with Kemp. Maybe they're onto your strategy. So you just got to be able to score with anyone. It's kind of my offensive tips.
Cool. No, those are great tips. Tom, what's your offensive strategy for people heading up to your tournament?
I think I've always focused on my push game. Like, honestly, I feel like you've got to get in your opponent's head with the push game, just reading their passing. So, I mean, I've always been a fan to go for the computer, take out the AI, but with this tag mode, it's going to mix it up a little bit too, but to take out one variable, so then you're only really guarding one guy, or can at least read that pass right off the bat too, in the inbound. So I feel like the push game's huge, and even more so in the TE, having the injury play into effect. And that's just a huge, it can totally change the pace of a game. And also too, we've always been, even we just were playing regular jam, of just the safe dunks underneath, like the backwards jam underneath. I think a lot of people, as Joseph was saying too, they come out, they haven't maybe played for a while, so they're doing these crazy dunks. It's fun, but you want to go for the safe jam. So I think just always going right underneath the hoop, kind of take a little bit of a diagonal, or just going right under and just doing the backwards jam in. I think that's like, well, I don't know the stats wise, but I know it's like one of the hardest to block in the game. If you're doing all these other crazy jams, someone's gonna pick those off or block those as they're coming in hot. So I think just going for a safe jam, like Joseph was saying too, a couple threes here and there to get the momentum either shifting, or if there's some elastic effect, or who knows. Safe jams and just the push game. I think you really have to master the push game, and just get your opponent's head with it. It's huge.
Yeah, those safe jams, they're just really quick, hard to block, like you said. And I don't know if we mentioned this, the reason the injury game is so important is because once your player gets above like 10 injuries, he starts moving really slow. And that's going to put you at a huge disadvantage to try to get around the defense to get to the rim to score. So that's why it's such a big deal, keeping your players healthy. All right, so I know Tom said a little bit about this, but Joseph, who do you think is the best player combo in the game? Just 1-2 punch. Not including the bench player.
Oh, not including the bench player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I go with the Hornets. Like I said, they got those. In my estimation, 2 of the best 3 players. So you can't go wrong with that. A lot of people are gonna talk about Malone and Stockton and things like that, and that's great if you're a Jazz fan and that's exciting to you. But attribute-wise, it just doesn't. They're not backed up, Really, the best are Johnson and Mourning, and then, like you said, Tom, Rodman are good.
Yeah. Rodman and Robinson.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It's like Rodman and Rodman would be good too. I'd take.
Yeah, that'd be pretty insane.
I'd take those stats.
I'm trying to see here who, most teams, they kind of just cater to the one guy, but I'll give a little tip. A very underrated duo is on Detroit, Terry Mills and Oliver Miller. They're not 2 of the more sexy guys, and of course Joe Dumars doesn't help a lot, but if you're looking for just a balanced, straightforward, these guys can kind of do anything combo, you could go with Mills and Miller, who coincidentally have the exact same attributes. I don't know if that was a mess up, but they're just very balanced, and so if you're taking on a team that's middle tier like the Pistons, maybe they have a star and another guy who's not as good, they might be a good matchup because they're just so well balanced. So
what do you think about Hornacek and Malone
I mean, personally, I think Hornacek's trash. Like, sorry if that's
no, I've seen some people swap it out though.
Yeah, if you love it, then do it, but if we're talking about like attributes, it's just like it just doesn't compare to like
Stockton. You're sticking
with
the
other
Stockton.
teams. Yeah, so
all right.
I would take Miller and Mills probably over Malone and Hornacek. Maybe that's just a preference thing. So
there's no way Oliver Miller should have the speed that he does, because he was one of the biggest players in the NBA.
I don't even know what his speed is. What is it? Pretty high?
It's a 6 or a 7, I believe.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
They're both 7. I got my little sheet up here.
Wow.
So it's just like, plenty of speed, more than you would expect.
Yeah.
But Tom's team is the Heat. They got a good duo with Harold Miner and Steve Smith. Not everyone's talking about the Heat, but there's another quick team. They've got a great defense. So just another solid, basic duo there.
One team that a lot of people will say is the best team in the game with the Rockets. I think they have one of the best combos in the game with Olajuwon and Ori. The reason I say is Olajuwon's one of the best players. Ori's got the best balance. Plus, he gives you a little bit more 3-ball than Mourning and Larry Johnson. And then, of course, better than Rodman and Robinson because they don't have 3-point shooting at all.
And I think that's really what separates those 3 teams from all the others. If there's a tier 1, it's those 3 teams, and it's because that starting duo is just so dominant for each of those 3 teams.
Cool. All right, so what is the best defensive strategy? I'll start with Tom. What do you think the best defensive strategy is?
Start with me. How about you start with Joseph on that one?
Joseph.
Yeah, I can do it. Yeah. You gotta stop them from scoring.
That's what I was gonna say. It's NBA Jam. I don't know defensive.
So here's the push game. The game kind of does cater towards the offense, so you just got to be okay with that. They're gonna score on you, but that's why you got to have your mindset. You're gonna score each time, so you do have to stop them a couple times. I guess the tips that I give are like, don't worry about when the other team inbounds the ball of just like running up to them and trying to get the ball back. Because they can kind of hang back a little bit and then pass it down to their drone probably for an easy score. Or if it's tag, I guess, he'll tag to that player. So really, I think of it as like a half-court press. Like you can kind of like push back a little bit on the guy bringing up the ball, but really you're not going to try to get the ball back in the other half of the court. You kind of just, let them come up to half, because then obviously the court is half as big and you got they only have 2 players, so it's much easier to defend 2 players with half a court than a whole court. So that's kind of one tip I can give. Another tip I would give is with steals. I think a lot is made out of the steal attribute, and because you're supposed to be able to swat the ball away with like a Stockton or a Price. And I think that was more of a deal in the original NBA Jam, but in TE, I just don't think that's the case. So some people can get hung up on like just tapping that steal button and trying to get that ball loose, and I just don't think that's the way to go. You want to either push them over or just stay with the offensive player. So that's what I'd say about stealing. Don't waste your time trying to swat the ball, but at the same time, when the guy passes the ball, you want to get into that passing lane so that maybe you intercept it. So that's the second tip I would give about stealing. And then the last thing, just in general, just like in real basketball, you want to stay in between the guy you're guarding and the basket. So you got to be careful with your pushes. You don't want to extend that. You just want to, because dunking is kind of the main way to score, you don't want them to blow by you and get that easy dunk. So just a mindset is to just stay between the other guy and the basket and kind of try to defend that key there. Kind of think of that as the area that you don't want to give up. So that's defense.
Joseph, I have a question for you. Do you think the stealing animation is quicker than the pushing animation, allowing you to get back to block easier?
It seems like it, but I think if you're committed to the push, then which you got to be, I feel like, then you got to be committed to the push, and you just want to use your pushes very strategically. And so to answer your question, the animation might be a little quicker, but to me, it seems like such a low percentage chance of success that really you just want to have the mindset of, even if you're Muggsy Bogues, you're either going to push or you're going to get back on defense, That's kind of my approach.
So, are there any other little nuances to NBA Jam, like the 5-second goaltend at the end of each quarter, or did we already pretty much talk about the ones that you should be aware of? I mean, obviously, you make 3 baskets in a row, you're on fire, and then you could goaltend as many times as you want until you're off fire. And then your 3-point shooting percentage goes up even if you're a bad 3-point shooter, so you can chuck threes with anybody. But is there anything else?
Well, in the Genesis one, when you do goaltend and you're on fire, it puts it out.
Yeah.
That's weird. Yeah, so I mean, it's going to shut that off. And also with TE2 on the Genesis, you know, those threes aren't guaranteed when you're on fire, which is something you got to get used to as well. You know, like it's not going to happen every time, which is just wild. That's what I'm saying. Like you can get Mark Price on fire for threes, and I've missed them. Like, what is that? That's what I was saying at the beginning. Like, the guy should be draining threes all day. So I think that's another thing. I don't know if it's Genesis or TE or in general, but that's definitely a little bit different from the regular jam.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to have one more question for you guys. What is a no-brainer matchup call in the NBA Jam tournament? Because, Tom, you're doing the NBA Jam tournament rule.
Yeah.
Just kind of like the matchup call Madison rules where you flip a coin, the guy calls a matchup, the other guy picks which team he wants, and then the other guy gets the remaining team. So what's a no-brainer matchup call?
Well, I think you can stick with some of the tier ones. I didn't hear all Joseph's. I think they were probably like Houston, Miami, and Charlotte. So I think you can call any one of those matchups, you know, Houston, Miami, or Miami, Charlotte, Charlotte, Houston. And I think those are some tier one matchups. I don't know what Joseph's thoughts are there. But those are, I mean, I think if you're talking about for like new people coming out that haven't played in a while, give them a chance to score, have some fun, get some awesome players on the court, and just start off strong. But like Joseph was saying at the beginning too, you know, you might not want to use or call that matchup right away at the beginning. You might want to have some fun later.
Yeah, you know, I used to think Miami was tier one, and they're definitely not Genesis. I really tried that out in the satellite tournament that we did for you guys.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
They don't got power. That's the only thing. They don't got that power.
For DPS, I played him. Basically, it was the finals, and I tried Spurs, Heat, and I just did not have the power with those players to compete with them. So they're a good team. Don't get me wrong, but they're probably more in the tier 2 or tier 3 range. So, Joseph, what's your no-brainer matchup call?
So yeah, like you can always go with the tier ones, like he said. The only thing then is you're giving your opponent one of the best teams, so it's just like you may not want to do that. One that I haven't really tried out but sounds exciting as I'm sitting here is Orlando, Miami. They're kind of like the next best teams in my opinion. They kind of round up the top 5. So you just got a lot of good players going on there. You got more of a 3-ball team with the Majik, more of a defensive team with the Heat. And then another good one would be the next teams, in my opinion, are the Hawks and the Warriors. So if you want just 2 really good balanced teams that aren't, you know, that the tier 1 quality, those would be good ones. Maybe a couple more I'll throw out. Seattle and Washington, the Sonics and Bullets. You got a superstar on each team, and then you got your supporting cast there. And then we'll say Chicago, Cleveland. How about that? You know, you can kind of reenact the shot there with the Bulls or the Cavs, I guess. But if you're looking for a little, you know, mid-tier teams, kind of balanced, I would go Bulls, Cavs, something like that.
Yeah. One I like is Bullets, Sonics. They both have the power player, Weber versus Kemp. And both the 2 other players, Schrempf and Payton, they're both taller guys. But the Bullets have Chaney and Skiles. Chaney's a taller guy. Skiles is shorter. But he has speed in 3. And then Payton and Schrempf, they're both tall. But Peyton's kind of just fast and can steal, and Schrempf's just not that.
And Schrempf's got power. Schrempf's an 8 on power, so you know it's a power duo with the Sonics versus a 3 duo with the Bullets. So,
what about some other Cleveland matchups? Since we're going to be in Cleveland, other Cleveland matchups like
other Cleveland matchups,
Minnesota.
Yeah, you could do Minnesota. You could do Denver, the Clippers. I would say that's kind of the tier where they fit. Maybe the Suns and the Kings. But I would definitely go like Bulls, Nuggets, Clippers, and Timberwolves for the Cavaliers.
Yeah, we don't want to reenact the shot, by the way. Let's not do that.
Sorry, is that too soon? I didn't know.
We've had some time. We've got other things we're worrying about now. Just bought.
Oh, that's true. Like
my season tickets like 2 hours ago.
Like not having LeBron James. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's that. Yeah, don't worry about it. We'll be good.
So, is there anything else about your NBA Jam tournament, Tom, that you want to tell people about?
No, I think the main thing is, like, you know, it's awesome that we got guys like Joseph coming on here and sharing stuff too, but we don't want people to feel intimidated either, you know, so we put a lot out there. So, you know, if you're watching, don't feel like, hey, if I don't know this stuff, it's awesome that guys like Joseph, Tom, and, you know, me are coming on and talking about this, but we'll have this stuff posted too. So we usually lay out on a projector, like on the main day, we'll say like, hey, here's tier 1 teams, here's tier 2, here's tier 3, and all the garbage teams, you know, so that way, if someone wants to call a garbage matchup or a tier 1 matchup, if you don't know those things, we lay it out there for them too. That way they can kind of feel comfortable and jump right in. That way they're not getting hosed on knowing if they should pick Houston or Philly or something like that. So, you know, so we put all that out there. But honestly, it'll be fun. We're going to get people a lot of good games in. We're hoping for an awesome turnout with NBA Jam too. It'd be amazing if we saw 64 guys in a Jam tournament. So it'd be sweet.
March Madness NBA Jam.
Sweet. So we'll see. I mean, the excitement's real. So we're seeing, actually, you know, in terms of the registration, we're seeing a good amount of people doing both registrations, which is awesome. So some people have been doing the NBA Jam, some people have been doing Tecmo, but a lot of people, the majority have been doing both tournaments. So it's good that they're getting either the approval from the wife to do 2 days of video games, or that they're finalizing the divorce. So it's, you know.
It seems like the dilemma for some of us.
Hey, you know, if you got to pick Tecmo or kids, wife and kids, you know, who knows?
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about NBA Jam and Tecmo Super Bowl, it definitely helps to have in-depth knowledge of both of the games. But if you just have raw gaming skill at both of these games, you could still compete at the highest level.
Right.
That's what's great about both of these games. So, Joseph.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Like, you know, I've been talking strategy and things like that, talking about 7 dunk and all that. But we are, you know, this game hasn't been picked apart like Tecmo has. So a lot of these things we're talking about, they're kind of theories, you know, they're kind of like what works for us. So I don't want people to be like, oh, they know so much about it and I got no chance. It's like, no, really we're still connected by how much we love the game and how fun it is. My way of loving it is, you know, trying to figure out the nuances out of it and whatnot. So, but it's great. You know, we're all there to have a great time, and it's going to be a great tournament.
Which is totally true too. I mean, like I always find myself going on Amazon buying the NBA Jam, like the player's strategy guide. Like the stuff for TE, just in Jam in general, is kind of unwritten still. I feel like, you know, it's in conversations like this, or in tournaments, or just talking to guys. I mean, there's so much stuff like on TecmoBowl.org about Tecmo and playbooks and matchups and everything. Exactly. You know, it's all written, which is even too, you know, going back to where we started with this interview, Tom. I mean, it's like so much of this is still to be seen, which is kind of cool. You know, that it's happening now, and that we have an opportunity to do this and to bring just tons of people together and to talk these things through, which is sweet.
Yeah, that's partly what excites me is just like it's untapped. You know, it's just like we'll see where it goes, but you know. Right now, it's all in front of us.
Well, Tom, I'm glad you're giving NBA Jam its own day, its own tournament. I think it's well deserving of that, and I wish you luck with the tournament. And I'll definitely be tuning in to whatever stream you have for NBA Jam, and of course to the TGFN Retro stream to check out Tecmo Cleveland. I would try to come to your tournament if I wasn't going to the Midwest Tecmo Super Bowl.
Oh, no, you're good. Go down
the week before, you know, 2 trips to Ohio.
Yeah. We'll still have Chicago represented, so we got you.
Yeah, I know the trips. I went out to Detroit for the Tecmo tournament there, and I think there was another one shortly thereafter. And you only have so many passes to get on the road, so I get it.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining me tonight. If you like the video, like it. Comment, let us know what you think about our NBA Jam knowledge and theories, as Joseph said, and take care.
Well,
Thanks a lot,
thanks. It's been
Tom.
real. Have a good night, guys.